Are you lost? Or are you looking for something? Walking around here, it's dangerous. This is not recommended for everybody. Kiddos can come along, but they're gonna only have more questions than answers. But that's part of this journey. Enter if you dare. My name is Dakota Frandsen, and this is Specialist of the Strange Radio Show, where we go into various topics of the unknown and bring them to light. And maybe, just maybe, we'll discover something new along the way. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. You're not going to want to miss this. Hello, my friends, and welcome to another episode of Specialist of the Strange Radio Show. My name is Dakota Frandsen. I wanted to ask you all something. Being that this year seems like we're going to have a bit more of a focus on the UFO phenomenon, have any of you ever noticed how certain characteristics of, for lack of a better word, legitimate extraterrestrial encounters and legitimate hauntings seem to possess the same qualities? Just think about it real quick. You have mysterious beings that can seemingly shapeshift. You have electrical malfunctions. You have mysterious lights, sounds, visions even. There are psychics out there who claim they have made contact with extraterrestrials as well as the dead. There are beings out there, spiritual beings, who claim they have never even been from this earth. Yet what are they doing here? The United States military revealing that they have a task force involving UFO sightings is nothing new. Groups like that have existed since at least the 40s. Japanese military just released new regulations for pilots who encounter possible UFO phenomena. Europe, they have their own official government positions to handle reports of strange aircraft. And if you want to really get into the conspiracies, you have the reports of the Men in Black, Area 51, all where strange beings, strange lights and sounds, strange phenomenon that seems to not be explainable by any understanding of our world happening seemingly on a daily basis. Now, I'm not going to be talking about the Goodyear blimp that got mistaken as a UFO. We're going to try to focus on the legitimate events. And try to figure out what the hell is the connection. Are the ghosts actually the aliens? Are the aliens actually the ghosts? We have people getting so soaked up on acid, DMT, and LSD that they're going on these spiritual, visual quests, so to speak, and end up encountering angels and aliens, all in the same consequences. So what are these people seeing? What is actually going on? And why is it that there seems to be so much overlap? I mean, are ghosts just aliens playing pranks on us? Are there ghost aliens? What's going on? We're going to talk about that today. It is September 25th, 2020. And as if this year isn't weird enough, maybe, just maybe, in the weirdness that is to come, we'll finally get our answers on these. And maybe, just maybe, we'll uncover the truth and be able to advance civilization beyond the realms of our imagination. Do stay tuned.
Hey everyone, Dakota Frandsen here, specialist of the strange. I just wanted to come with you real quick about potentially doing your own podcast. Have you ever wanted to start your own podcast? Maybe you got a lot of questions like, how do I record? How do I get my show into all these apps that are out there? How can I make money? There are probably several thousand other questions about getting this show off the ground that you have been formulating and communicating in your mind. And I'm here to tell you that there is a very simple answer to this. Anchor. Anchor is a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, distributing your show. And best of all, it is 100% free. Get all the perks from the other guys without having to pay for subscription fees. And best of all, it is easy. And in fact, Anchor can match you up with sponsors who want to advertise on your podcast right now, which means you can get paid doing what you love. Isn't that the fucking dream, my friends? In fact, that's actually what I'm trying to do right now by reading this ad for you. It is amazing. It helps ease the process for guests, putting on music, whatever you want to do. So if you want to start your podcast, make some money doing it, go to anchor.fm/start to join me and several other fabulous people already using Anchor. That's anchor.fm/start. And I cannot wait to hear you on the air.
Now, a question such as this often lures out the ignorant, trying to make themselves seem more special, more knowledgeable than they actually are about certain subjects. But that is not the point of this show. The point of this show is to explore the genuine possibilities, not pull random bullshit out of our asses. Sorry, I don't know why I seem to be in a tense mood, but let's get into the situations, shall we? So, let's compare some notes here from various different incidents involving both UFOs and ghosts, where even the most hardened skeptics may go, there might be something here. Alright. So, let's take UFOs for example. We have strange objects in the sky, flashing lights when they seem to maneuver. sometimes even changing shapes as we know it. Oftentimes, those who have close enough encounters report that they feel physically sick in the areas in which the incidents occurred. All of a sudden, are radioactive. And we go into the files of some of the most dedicated researchers out there on the matter. And many of them reach the same conclusions, that whoever or whatever is piloting these things may not come from our reality as we know it. They may come from an alternate world. Not like a situation where aliens came down from Mars. No. But essentially another Earth in some instances. Alright. And a lot of these incidents you may point towards, I shouldn't even bring this up, abduction cases. The reports of people somehow being shifted as if their molecules were being altered, their form being shifted to somehow go through walls like nothing. Okay? Now, let's go to spirits. And I'm not just talking, ghosts, fragments of consciousness that remain after one's demise. No, we're going to talk human spirits, we're going to talk angels, demons, things like that. What do you have with ghosts? They seem to change shape, right? Okay? They, be able to disappear and reappear at will, okay? Some appear lighter, some appear darker, some come inside with strange magnetic phenomenon. There have even been astronauts aboard the International Space Station who swear to this day that they thought they saw bright lights that reminded them of angels outside of the space station. Okay? We have matter manipulation. In some of the most extreme cases, it seems like there's time displacement. Even with UFO reports. Then, even there's things popping out of nowhere. There's even, in some serious cases, high amounts of radiation. What is going on in these areas? You look at Betty and Barney Hill. Cancer believed to be developed after their incident. And Lorraine Warren, there were some reports that some technology seemed to fail whenever they were around. In the times that they were working, they would capture electronic voice phenomenon that honestly, for the words that they could make out, sounded simply evil. Then you have incidents like the ancient alien theory, where they point out that all of these ancient incidents where interactions with gods and beings, even then, they see these beings came from the stars or other worlds. If there's any credence to the ancient alien theory, we're seeing the same patterns to this very day. And let's dig into psychic phenomenon.
Author Nick Redfern recently posted a link to an article that caught my attention involving Project Stargate, where the Central Intelligence Agency hired and studied psychic phenomenon in hopes of use in possible warfare. Allegedly, nothing was found out of the test done. Uri Geller famously being debunked by James Randi. But nevertheless, one of the experiments done, allegedly, was to have a remote viewer look in on specific coordinates on the red planet. These coordinates were set on Mars, and to report what he saw. I'm sorry, but if you wanted to make for that dramatic reveal, dude, you could have waited just 5 more seconds. And what he reportedly saw during this incident was beings we would describe similar to alien race. And they seemed to be in some sort of sleeping or hibernation chamber in fancy clothes that were cut to fit, like they were purposely tailored for each one of these beings. And they honestly didn't look like they were doing so hot. And it's it's incidents like this where many of the ideas that Mars was perhaps once a very vibrant, active, and even maybe Earth-like planet at some point. But something went wrong. And because these beings managed to develop space travel just in time, a few of them, based on the reports I read, it was basically the young, the healthy, those who would most likely survive the trip. They went off-world to search for other homes. Some of them came here to Earth. Others went to another planet. But there's even reports, I'm honestly skeptical of a few of them, but there's even reports of psychics and those who have experimented with hallucinogenic drugs such as LSD and DMT, where they report encountering extraterrestrials, or sometimes even angels. So, inevitably, we have a lot of overlap here that no one really seems to want to try to explain. Or if anything, the overlap is causing people to simply just, disregard it entirely. But what if there's something here? I wonder. And for those of you who have followed my journey for a while now, you know that I've had encounters with beings. I've dealt with both UFOs, angels, ghosts, demons, you name it. And I've seen the overlap myself. So what is going on? Is it all completely bullshit? Or is there something there? That's the conclusion we're going to try to discuss here today. The premise of this show is to simply operate under the assumptions that, okay, these things are real, but why? Okay? Okay. A lot of the main theories that seem to circulate out there is that mediums, ghosts, UFOs, all these different things are byproducts of the dimensions of the universe interacting with one another. Now, the terms alternate universes, realities, worlds, they kind of get jarbled up in here, mainly due to science fiction writers. But under the premise of this program, we are going to operate in the fact that timelines are simply alternate histories. Dimensions are simply ways of measurement. And universes, well, they're simply the formations of what grows within the dimensions within each timeline. The alternate universes, alternate worlds even, are merely byproducts of timelines and the dimensions and how they interact. When it comes to ghosts, one of the suggestions out there is that they exist within the astral plane, a plane of existence in which coincides with our own, but we ourselves cannot physically sense it without some sort of disposition to the spiritual. Okay? Okay. Now, a lot of what mainstream science has explained or dictated within quantum physics, alternate realities, the idea of a multiverse, even with the reports of an alternate universe where time flows backwards circulating the web. The idea is not that are they out there, it's where are they? And the answers have become are often so perplexing that the most genius of minds cannot wrap themselves around it. So if at any point you find yourself confused about what the hell I am saying, don't feel bad. Happens to everyone. So, going back to the astral plane. Okay? What in mainstream science do we have that coincides, sounds similar, if you will, to the ideas behind the astral plane? Well, we have, our three-dimensional universe. We have the fourth dimension, in which several dictate as time. Several interested parties believe to be interpreted as one dimension of time. And time in itself is not necessarily linear. Would you stop that? Time is fluid. Think of it as like water. Water tends to flow freely. If there's something in the path of the water, it will go right around it. It may try to go under it. It may go over it if there's enough volume to it. But the objects in the water's path alter its course, alter its speed even. And with time, we see that very effect due to gravity. And one of the ideas presented in discussing higher dimensions is that beings who exist within the fourth dimension, it coincides with the world we see now. But it's also different, much, much bigger. Beings who exist on a fourth dimensional plane may be able to let time travel through them. For those of you who may not know what I'm talking about, think of Avengers Endgame.
the scene in which you have Hulk experimenting with time travel on Ant-Man, on Paul Rudd's character. And you see him turn into a baby, then an older man. If you haven't seen Avengers Endgame by now, and that just spoiled it for you, what rock are you living under? A lot of the concepts behind that are framed around the time heist, as they called it in the movie, are framed around our current understanding of reality in itself. A being in which exists in the fourth dimension may in fact be able to alter their appearance in time. They may be able to make themselves look younger. They may be able to make themselves look older. And if a being were to interact with a world in which of a smaller dimensional capacity, a world in which fewer dimensions, they have a good chance of potentially destroying things if they are not careful, or if they are too strong. Let me put it to you this way. Let me give you this as an example. Take a piece of just regular old paper. All right? That is generally considered to be a two-dimensional surface, right? It's flat. It can only go two directions. The plane is minimal. Now let's say you have a three-dimensional light source. Yeah, you light a match. Or even you point one of those high-powered lasers at it. And you put it against the piece of paper. What's going to happen? The paper's going to burn. Right? So if a being that exists primarily in the fourth dimension, there is a good chance that their bodies have much greater amounts. I'm trying to find the right words here. They have a greater chance. There's a good chance that their bodies are going to look all sorts of fun, weird shapes that our minds could not comprehend. Simply because their bodies had more space to grow and evolve. And this is following the principle that these beings somehow followed similar laws to our own growth and development. And it is quite possible that under this understanding that the three-dimensional world in which we are currently sitting within may be the lowest point life in itself, conscious life as we know it, can develop. So if a fourth dimensional being were to interact with us, chances are we notice. Because of how light and sound would interact with our world, they have a chance of either seeming really, really quiet. EVPs, white ghosts always seem to whisper. They can be really, really loud. Their forms, what their bodies would give off as their natural body heat. A lot like how our own bodies give off infrared light, heat. What they experience as their body heat could easily be microwave radiation to us. Damaging, melting, hot, and all around dangerous if you're not careful with it. But what if somehow a being that knew its entire life within a three-dimensional world suddenly found itself in the fourth dimension? What would happen then? Well, chances are, because of how the fourth dimension interacts with our world,
They're not going to suddenly find themselves in a much bigger body. No, no, no. Their body is going to be relatively the same in their appearance. However, because it's a lot more spread out, they'll be weaker. And there's no sun introduction of more mass, more heat, none of that. So anytime they go to interact with the world they once knew, the changes usually are relatively minimal. Cold breezes, sudden electromagnetic spikes, phantom voices, the images of them suddenly fading and reappearing, things of that nature. What about UFOs? Well, under the same dimensional understanding, by the time we hit the fifth dimension, that's where the idea of parallel Earths begins. And that's where I need to cut off for the next commercial break. And we're back. Before the commercial break, we discussed how ghosts may be essentially byproducts of the human soul entering in higher dimensional status. Somehow entering higher dimensional status. Being that the fourth dimension is essentially time and they can manipulate themselves, a being in which they exist in the fourth dimension could alter their appearance based on time. A ghost may be able to simply time travel and not even realize it. But it also presents an interesting opportunity. What if the ghosts are simply fragments of the living being tossed further through the river? Unless you were to scoop something out of the river itself, chances are it's still going to flow through time, whether or not that person is living or dead. And if consciousness, the soul, is in fact a formation of light, then it cannot be destroyed. You understand what I'm saying? But before the commercial break, we were starting to dig into the fifth dimension, where alternate Earths start to begin. Now, this is where timelines factor in. Up until this point, an infinite number of worlds are born. From each and every point, one has experienced throughout any point in history. An infinite number of timelines are created due to variations within actions. Maybe one day there was an earthquake for some odd reason, and it altered the pressure in the area, setting off a storm. Maybe one day I go to swing mom out and for some reason reach out and knock something off the shelf that's next to me. Every action you can think of essentially creates another timeline. But it's not until the moment of the action we know which timeline we are going to experience. And that is why the fifth dimension is said to consist of alternate Earths with the same starting positions. If we were to somehow be able to travel between alternate Earths, alternate versions of the planet Earth, the one main thing we would notice is that everything is similar. The closest realities. Remember how I said each timeline is a new reality. Each reality, which would be technically be the closest that we could visit, would be quite similar to our own. Almost identical. And the variations would be small. Like one day today, I wore a black shirt. The difference may be that today I wore a blue shirt. The differences would be minimal. But it would be enough for us if we were to somehow take a peek into these other worlds. We could study how events could play out. Wouldn't that be interesting? And chances are, if a being that exists in a fifth dimension were to interact with one of these worlds, once again, they would be putting that world in danger. However, a majority of the beings we will likely encounter coming from alternate Earths, alternate dimensions, may not even realize it. And this is where ideas of the Mandela effect might play into it. They may not even realize that they are on a different Earth than from the one that they originated from. That is the most likely scenario. In the time that you have been listening to this show, you may have well shifted it into a different reality. What is with the dramatic timing on this goddamn phone? You may have shifted into several different realities without even realizing it. In the time that you have been listening to my voice. Is not something interesting. Now, the chances of such a shift would be minimal. Less than 1% of 1% of 1%. But for all intents and purposes, they seem to still happen. If a being from a fifth dimension, genuinely from a fifth dimension, were to interact with us, a genuinely fifth dimensional being, they would be able to know everything about us, our paths, our futures. If you happen to see the third Men in Black movie where Will Smith's character goes back in time to try to save Agent K, and they run into that one alien who could see every possible future, every possible past. That's what... They wouldn't look human. We wouldn't be able to have a name for the fucking shape they would be in. They would be able to alter their appearance. They would be able to tell us every possible outcome. Simply because their existence is within all those worlds. They see it all. And if we were to encounter a being from these higher dimensions, they would be able to tell us everything. However, there's a good chance that they would not tell us, due to the fact that every little motion alters the flow of time. And simply seeing how things unfold changes the outcome. Sometimes slightly, but it still does. By the time we reach sixth dimension, that's where completely different worlds with completely different starting points occur. And it is here that the extraterrestrials are coming from. They're coming from a three-dimensional world relative to their perspective into our world. For them, it's just an even fancier form of interstellar travel, interdimensional travel, We should put it at that. The mathematical calculations they would have to commit to in order to plot their course. My God. We could probably do it now if we weren't so busy fighting amongst each other over political beliefs. Fuck you, BLM. And fuck you, Antifa. I agree with your message, but not your tactics. But back to the show. And once again, what would these beings interacting with our world look like? If they were in the direct path of sight of our three-dimensional world, they would change shapes. There would be funky lights, electromagnetic anomalies, temperature anomalies, things like that. Or, because their world, their six-dimensional world, not the three-dimensionals that build up to the six-dimensional, but the six-dimensional world has so many new ways of travel that they may be interacting with us, and we would never see it. The point I'm trying to say is that it seems that ghosts, UFOs, and the such are all operating under dimensional anomalies. And if we learn to master those dimensional anomalies, build the technology capable of it, that technology may in fact be partially alive. Essentially, they would be living machines. But that sort of travel is also very dangerous. Could be why so many of the crowds are allegedly built with these incredibly strong but very malleable materials. A lot of the problems with dimensional travel, in whatever form it may take, lie within knowing that the physics in which apply to our world are similar enough to the other worlds we wish to venture in that we don't essentially die. The physics that allow us a solid form in our world may turn us into a pile of goo within another. The rules there may allow us to be sentient piles of goo, but nevertheless piles of goo. Can you imagine sex like that? Ugh. That's giving me the hibbity-jibbies. So what would the world look like if we were able to master this technology? One of the ideas out there is that orbs you sometimes see that maintain enough of a physical manifestation that they interact with the world around them, as in the light they give off is reflecting off of other surfaces. Animals seem to react to them. Things of that nature. Orbs the size of a basketball could in fact be megacities, like 20 times the size of New York. My apologies for the interruption. I was going out to dinner with some family. But, as I was talking about before the interruption, the mastery behind... If we were to achieve a level of mastery of quantum technology, like many conspiracy theorists often claim we actually have, our world would be very different. There's a good chance artificial intelligence may take over. In fact, that's actually supposed to happen within the next 5 to 10 years. It would certainly provide an interesting outlook on life. Interstellar travel. would be a concern of the past, as the craft utilized in such endeavors would no longer be just a big bottle rocket, but anti-gravity measures that Nikola Tesla tried to bring about into our world. The technology is already there in order to achieve extraterrestrial-like status. But what does that do for ghosts? What will these technological advancements do to paranormal phenomenon, to ghosts? Because there's actually been a few recent scientific discoveries. Two in particular that stand out, that may contribute to this. One is the official announcement that science has figured out a way to measure consciousness. Currently, it can only handle the consciousness of fruit flies. But give it time. Like I said in previous episodes, there may be several things we won't understand until we develop the ability to record everything our eyes see. To use our own eyes as cameras. And be able to convert that imagery data into a digital format our machines can understand. And there's also been findings of phantom kicks, as the article described it, where somehow on enough of a level, enough molecules within objects were measured to react in a certain manner that would make random objects seem like they were moving on their own. So are we on the verge? Maybe. The developments which will come, and I give in no more than 10 years' time, the world we know now will become unrecognizable. And what is the deal with the overlap? Maybe, just maybe, we're about to unlock humanity's truest potential. My name is Dakota Frandsen. I am the specialist of the strange. That is all the time we have for this week. Do tune in next time. The episode should be up and running on Friday, October, yay, October 2nd. Due to lack of ideas for new content, you may just see older episodes of previous incarnations of this show emerge. Be sure to use the link in the description to find me on social media. Find places to listen to this episode. We are recently going to expand to Amazon. Amazon has recently started hosting podcasts, so be on the lookout for there. My name is Dakota Frandsen. I must go, but no hunter waits. I will see you next time, my friends.